For most beings in the galaxy, fear was a normal part of life. They feared deep space. They feared unknown signals. But more than anything, they feared one name, the Carzole. No one remembered where the Carzole came from. They had no famous homeworld, no proud history shared in galactic schools. They did not need stories. Their actions were enough. When a Carzole ship entered a system, planets went quiet. Trade stopped. Military channels shut down. Even brave species chose to hide instead of fight. The Carzole did not shout threats. They did not give long speeches. They arrived and waited. That was always enough. Whole civilizations had fallen without firing a single shot. Not because they were weak, but because they knew resistance only made things worse. The Galactic Council knew this better than anyone. In the Great Council chamber, leaders from hundreds of species sat in silence as a red symbol appeared on the main screen. A Carzole fleet was moving again. This time toward a small, unimportant edge of known space, a place barely discussed in council meetings, a place marked with a simple name, Sol System. Who lives there? One council member asked. A few screens lit up with data. A young species, short lifespan, still divided into nations, still arguing among themselves. The file ended with one word: humans. Some council members relaxed. Others shook their heads. It's over for them? Someone whispered. The Carzole had never been stopped before. Far away on a small blue planet, humans went on with their normal lives. People went to work. Children argued about games. Old people watched the sky without knowing why they felt uneasy. Then the signal arrived. It was not loud. It was not dramatic. Just one message, repeating on every screen in every language humanity had ever used. Surrender control of your system. You have one standard cycle. Around the world, people froze. This was not a movie. This was not a drill. Satellites showed massive shapes moving through space, dark, sharp, and silent. Human leaders gathered fast. Some wanted to fight. Some wanted to talk. Some said it was hopeless. They searched old galactic records, desperate for answers. What they found made the room go quiet. Every species that resisted the Carzole no longer existed. Cities erased, worlds burnt, names forgotten. Fear spread quickly. News channels showed the same images again and again. The black ships, the endless fleet, the cold message. Across the galaxy, others watched too. They felt pity for the humans, but also relief. At least it was not them. In the Carzole command vessel, the mood was calm. Their commanders reviewed human data with little interest. Weak bodies, simple weapons, no unified space military worth mentioning. Another short operation. One commander said. They decided to teach humans a lesson the galaxy already knew. Fear saves time. As a warning, the Carzole destroyed a small, empty moon near the edge of the system. It broke apart silently, turning into dust. The message was clear. Surrender or disappear. Human leaders watched the destruction in silence. No shouting, no panic. Just long, heavy breaths. Then something unexpected happened. Human space went quiet. No surrender message. No angry reply. No threats. Just silence. Across the galaxy, observers leaned closer to their screens. Silence usually meant fear. But this silence felt different. On Earth, lights stayed on. People kept moving. Factories worked through the night. Deep underground and far beyond the planet, systems woke up that had not been used in years. Old plans were opened. Old rules were set aside. The Carzole waited, confident as always. They believed humans were breaking. They did not know the truth. They had mistaken calm for fear. And that mistake was about to change the balance of the galaxy forever. The Carzole waited. They always did. In past wars, silence meant fear. It meant worlds were already giving up. So when human space went quiet, the Carzole commanders felt no urgency. Let them think. The lead commander said, fear grows better in silence. Days passed. Human planets did not send surrender codes. They did not launch fleets. They did not evacuate cities. From the outside, it looked like nothing was happening. But inside the Sol system, everything was changing. Human leaders met again, this time without cameras or speeches. There were no dramatic promises, no heroic words, only questions. How long do we have? What do they expect us to do? And what do we do if we refuse? Scientists spoke next, not about weapons, but about patterns. They studied Carzole battles from the past, how they moved, how they waited, how they reacted when things did not go as planned. One detail stood out. The Carzole never adapted quickly. They crushed enemies fast or not at all. Humans noticed this. Meanwhile, the Galactic Council was growing nervous. This was not how it usually went. When the Carzole attacked a species, screams filled the channels. Emergency votes were called. Refugee ships fled in every direction. But humanity, nothing. Some council members began to whisper. Are they already gone? Did the Carzole destroy them without telling us? Others watched human broadcasts. They saw people still working, Still arguing online, still complaining about daily problems. It made no sense. On the 5th day, the Carzole sent another message. You are running out of time. Still no reply. That was when the Carzole decided to enter deeper into the system. Their fleet moved forward in perfect formation, black ships cutting through space like blades. Their scanners searched for resistance. They found none. No attack fleets, no defense lines, no minefields. Only empty space and quiet planets. The Carzole commanders felt satisfaction. Fear has won, one said. Then something small happened. One ship drifted slightly off course. Its navigation system corrected itself a second too late. The commander frowned. Check that system, he ordered. Another ship reported a delay, then another. Nothing serious. Just slow responses. Human space still showed no signs of attack. Then the Carzole tried to contact one another. Their internal communications lagged. Only by seconds, but for a species that relied on perfect control, seconds mattered. At the same time, human satellites quietly adjusted their positions. No dramatic movement, no sudden signals. Just small changes. Back on Earth, engineers watched screens filled with numbers, not stars. They did not cheer, they did not smile, they worked. The Carzole finally reached a human outpost station. It was old, small, and lightly armed. A perfect target. They fired. The shot missed. That had never happened before. The second shot hit, but weaker than expected. Energy readings dropped. Weapon systems showed strange feedback. The Carzole commander felt irritation rise. Explain, he demanded. No one could. Then something worse happened. Human ships appeared. Not in front of the Carzole fleet, behind it. And beside it. Not large ships, not threatening ones. Just many small, quiet vessels. They did not fire. They did not speak. They moved. Human ships slipped between Carzole formations, forcing them to turn, to adjust, to break perfect lines. The Carzole were still stronger, but for the first time, they were not in control. Across the galaxy, observers leaned closer. This was new. This was different. The Carzole had ruled through fear for centuries, but now, something unfamiliar crept into their command channels. Confusion. And confusion was the first crack in their legend. The Carzole had never feared confusion. They feared only weakness. And confusion, in their long history, had always come from weak enemies. It was something they crushed quickly, something that disappeared once their fleets moved forward. This time it did not disappear. Human ships continued to move in strange patterns. They did not rush. They did not chase. They drifted, adjusted, and repositioned as if they already knew where the Carzole would turn next. The Carzole fleet tried to reorganize. Orders were sent. Formations were corrected. Weapons were brought to full power. But nothing felt clean anymore. Signals arrived late, target locks slipped, energy levels dropped without clear reason. The Carzole commanders grew angry. Stop reacting. The lead commander snapped. Advance and destroy. The fleet moved forward again. That was when space itself seemed to work against them. Navigation paths that had been clear seconds before now felt crowded. Human ships slipped into blind spots, places the Carzole sensors rarely watched because no one had ever survived long enough to use them. The humans were not faster. They were earlier. Every move the Carzole made felt predicted. Inside one human command center, no one spoke loudly. Screens showed real-time movement of alien ships marked not by color but by probability. Engineers watched patterns, not targets. Military officers did not shout orders. They asked questions. What happens if they turn now? What if they don't? Humans were not trying to win the battle quickly. They were trying to understand it. Back in the Carzole command vessel, frustration grew. They fired again at a human group. The humans scattered, not in panic, but with purpose. 2 ships took damage and pulled back. The rest closed in just enough to force the Carzole to split fire. It was inefficient, and inefficiency was dangerous. For the first time in centuries, a Carzole commander asked a question that had never been needed before. Are they studying us? The idea felt wrong. The Carzole were the hunters, the feared, the ones others reacted to. But humans were not reacting, they were learning. Across the galaxy, observers felt something shift. This was not a heroic charge. This was not brute strength. This was patience. Galactic analysts replayed the battle footage again and again. Humans avoided direct hits. Humans forced mistakes. Humans allowed small losses to gain better positions. They were not afraid to lose ships. They were afraid to lose understanding. Then the first real blow landed. A Carzole support ship went dark. Not destroyed, not exploding. Just gone silent. Moments later, another. The Carzole tried to trace the attack. There was no clear weapon fire. Human ships had not fired a single visible energy blast. Instead, systems failed. Power grids collapsed. Internal controls froze. Emergency backups refused to respond. The Carzole did not understand what kind of attack this was. Humans did not explain. They never sent threats. They never bragged. They simply adjusted. The Carzole commanders felt something heavy settle in their thoughts. This was not fear. This was uncertainty. Fear could be controlled. Fear could be used. Uncertainty could not. For the first time, the Carzole slowed their advance. Across human space, people watched with quiet focus. No celebrations. No cheers. They knew this was not over. But they also knew something important had changed. The Carzole were no longer setting the rules. And in the galaxy, where fear had always decided the future, a new idea was beginning to spread. Maybe fear was not the strongest weapon anymore. Maybe thinking was. The Carzole had never retreated in the middle of a battle. They had paused before. They had waited, but retreat. That word did not exist in their command language. Yet now, their fleet slowed even more. Human ships continued to circle, not closing in, not pulling away. They stayed just far enough to be safe, just close enough to be seen. The Carzole tried to reassert control. They focused all power into their largest weapons. Massive energy cannons charged, glowing with destructive force. These weapons had ended wars in minutes. They fired. The blast tore through space and missed. Human ships had already moved. Not fast, not flashy, just early. The Carzole flagship shook as feedback rushed through its systems. Warning lights flashed for the first time in the ship's long service. Stabilize power, the commander ordered. The response came late. Another ship reported internal system failure, then another. Still, none of them exploded. That was the worst part. Humans were not destroying them. They were disabling them. Across the galaxy, military experts watched in disbelief. This was not how wars were fought. Victory was supposed to be loud. It was supposed to be fast. It was supposed to be final. But humanity was doing something different. They were removing control piece by piece. Inside a human command center, one officer finally spoke. They're slowing down. No cheering followed. Everyone knew what slowing down meant. The Carzole were thinking. That alone was dangerous. On the Carzole flagship, the lead commander studied the tactical map. Human ships formed patterns that made no sense at first glance. Then he noticed something. They were protecting something. A line, a space corridor, a route. They are guarding their core worlds, he said. Another commander shook his head. No, they are guarding us. The room fell silent. The idea felt impossible. Why would prey guard predators? Then the truth became clear. Humans were not afraid of invasion anymore. They were managing it. The Carzole launched a concentrated attack toward Earth. This time humans did not avoid it. They moved together. Human ships formed tight groups, overlapping defense fields, sharing energy and data. When one ship took damage, others compensated instantly. It was not perfect. Several human ships were hit hard. One was lost. The Carzole felt a surge of confidence. Press the attack, the commander ordered. That was the moment everything broke. Human systems shifted. The Carzole fleet suddenly lost long-range vision. Sensors filled with false signals. Targets appeared where nothing existed. Real threats vanished from view. Human ships slipped closer. Close enough to touch, close enough to act. One by one, Carzole capital ships went dark. No explosions, no screams, just silence. The Carzole tried to pull back. Engines failed. Backup systems refused to respond. For the first time in galactic history, a Carzole commander felt trapped. Not surrounded by weapons. Surrounded by calculation. A human message finally came through. Clear, calm, short. This is as far as you go. No insults, no threats, just a statement of fact. The Carzole commanders realized something terrifying. Humans had not used their strongest weapons. They had not even shown them. They had fought with limits. And now those limits were visible. The Carzole fleet stopped advancing. Then, slowly, carefully, they turned around. Across the galaxy, panic spread. Not because of what humans had destroyed, but because of what they had chosen not to. The most feared species in known space was retreating. Not from a monster, but from a species that had proven it could control the fight and end it whenever it wished. Fear had changed sides, and the galaxy would never see humanity the same way again. The retreat of the Carzole fleet spread across the galaxy faster than any battle footage ever had. Systems that had hidden for centuries reopened their channels. Observers replayed the recordings again and again, searching for tricks, secret weapons, or errors. They found none. The Carzole had not been destroyed. They had not been outnumbered. They had not been overwhelmed. They had been stopped. That fact shook the galaxy more than any explosion could have. On the Carzole home command world, silence filled their highest council chamber. No one spoke of revenge. No one demanded another attack. For the first time in their recorded history, the Carzole discussed caution. They reviewed the battle honestly. Humans had not chased them. Humans had not celebrated. Humans had let them leave. That mercy confused them more than defeat. Among other species, fear slowly began to change shape. For centuries, fear had meant one thing: the Carzole are unstoppable. Now, a new truth settled in: they can be resisted. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. This time, it was not filled with panic. It was filled with questions. What are humans? What do they want? And why didn't they finish the fight? Human representatives arrived without escorts or grand displays. They did not boast. They did not threaten. They listened. When asked why they did not destroy the Carzole fleet, the human speaker gave a simple answer: because stopping the war was enough. That answer spread across the galaxy. Some species felt relief, some felt admiration, some felt fear of a different kind. On Earth, life slowly returned to normal. People went back to work. Children returned to school. News channels stopped showing the same space footage every hour. But something had changed. Humans now knew they were seen, not as weak newcomers, not as harmless traitors, but as equals. Military planners updated old rules. Scientists reviewed systems that had once been considered just in case. Leaders understood a hard truth: human restraint had limits, and those limits had now been measured. Far from Sol, a small species sent a message to Earth. They had once paid tribute to the Carzole. They asked if humans would protect them. The human response was careful. "We don't rule," the message said, "but we don't abandon." That sentence was recorded in dozens of languages. Across the stars, old alliances shifted. Some species stood taller. Others reconsidered how they treated smaller neighbors. Fear was no longer one-sided. In Carzole space, young commanders studied the battle footage in silence. They saw every mistake, every assumption. They learned a new lesson the galaxy had never taught them before. Fear works only until someone refuses to obey it, and humans had refused. Galactic records were updated that cycle. A new entry was added under humanity's name: capable of total war, chooses restraint, dangerous when forced. It became the most referenced warning in modern galactic history. Long after the battle, a Carzole scout ship passed near human space. It did not cross the border. It did not send threats. It turned away, not because it was chased, but because it remembered. The galaxy's most feared species had finally met an equal. Not one that ruled through fear, but one that understood it, and chose when to use it.